to you about what I call SPD. I'll put the full title up here because I can't actually say what it is, but it's also known as pelvic girdle pain, so PGP. But my physio, my midwife have been calling it SPD, so that's what I'm gonna be carrying on with. Essentially, what it is your hip bones come obviously round your hips and they meet in the middle like so, and this is then where your pubic bone is. So without being too graphic, the front of your vagina essentially, but it's the bone, just to stress. It's nothing intimate or anything like that. It is your physical bone and skeletal structure. So your pelvis comes round and your pubic bone then meets like that. You have two sections that then meet. What has happened in my case, I believe it is different for everyone, but it all centres around this bone, is that mine have scissored. So my left side is actually further forward than my right side, and that has been causing excruciating pain. You have a number of muscles that are linked to those bones as well. So those muscles come underneath your undercarriage, so from your front section to your back section of your bum, also up across your stomach, and you even have some muscles in your jaw and your inner thighs that are also connected to that muscle. So anytime you tense any of those muscles, like a puppet on a string, it then tugs that bone and can separate it even more, causing even more pain than what you were already in. In worst case scenario, some pregnant ladies can end up on crutches or in a wheelchair because it can be so debilitating. However, I was determined that that was not going to be me under any circumstances. If I was then going to end up in that position, that then meant I was going to deliver my baby on my back, that is not what I wanted under any circumstances, and I was desperate for a water birth. I still am. So I was going to make that happen somehow. So here are some tips that I've found to help me along the way, and hopefully that will help you. Tip number 1, you have access to your physio and you can self-refer to your NHS physio. Go and do that as soon as you can. Yes, I've seen physios in the past. Yes, I've not always been so complimentary about them. However, in this situation, the earlier that you can get proper physical assistance and medical assistance, the better. They can give you different exercises, because it depends what muscles and what is actually going on with your pubic bone. In my personal situation, it actually ended up, and it took quite a few months to actually pinpoint it. It was my inner thigh muscles, particularly my left thigh muscle, because it was my left pubic bone that was further forward than my right, that was actually pulling it out of position. So whenever I was going to the physio and they were actually manually having to reset my pubic bone, and yes, that is as painful as it sounds, where they're having to push back my pubic bone manually and basically bend back my bone, then my inner left thigh muscle, as soon as I left that room, unbeknown to us, was then pulling it straight back out of joint, which is then what was causing me so much pain. And we were just going around in a vicious circle. But go and see your physio. They can then assess where the issue is perhaps stemming from and give you certain different exercises to help with that. They can also then give you different support belts. I have 2. So the first one is what I call my belly band. So this is what I call my belly band. Now, because of the size of my stomach, is actually a lot lower than it was and it should be. It's meant to be right the way up to your bra strap. But obviously my stomach is getting sizable. It's essentially a tubey grip, but what it does is it lifts up my bump off my pubic bone just to give me a little less pressure from there. So that is one of the assistance that they've given me. The other belt they gave me is what was called a Sorolla, the Sorolla belt, and it looks like this. They adjust to whatever support you need. I call this my wrestler belt just because I then know what I'm on about. And it goes round your waist and velcros at the front, and then between There's different elastic points. Like I said, it depends where the physio needs to set this for you, like mine did for me. Then depending on where I am, or like where it sits on your pelvis, it then pulls your pelvis together and keeps that all in place and kind of supports you at the waist. They also took me through various different exercises, including a lot of pelvic floor exercises that I needed to do, a lot of inside leg exercises that I needed to do, the fact that I could not split my legs at all. So when getting in and out of a chair, when walking, when getting in and out of a car or the bed, my knees have to be together. You had to remember to be like a mermaid. And they were giving me different techniques on how to get it up and out of a chair, and things like that. So first of all, go and see your physio as quick as you can. The second tip I found was actually sitting on a carrier bag in the car. Like I mentioned, you need to keep your legs together, and one of my most painful situations was getting in and out of a car where you have to split your legs to then open the car door and get your leg out. If you sit on a carrier bag and open your car door as wide as you can actually spin on the carrier bag with your knees together before placing them on the floor of the car park, the tarmac, wherever it is, outside of the car, to then be able to get out. And that then means you can get out of the car without actually having to open your legs, and that saved me loads of kind of lack of pain, which was fantastic. I wish I'd known about it sooner. The other tip I got given was when getting in and out of a chair, if you keep your feet are flat on the floor, knees bent at right angles, and lean forward slightly, then actually a lot of the pressure is in your bum and in your glutes rather than across your stomach and your pubic bone. So that should also then limit the pain when getting in and out of chairs, because that was another sore point for me. The final bit of advice I can give you is, at first I grimaced when someone said this to me, and that is, move as much as you possibly can. I know it is excruciating. I know the last thing you want to be doing is moving and causing any more pain than you have to, because every footstep you take sends shots and shards of glass are being like stabbed in your nether regions. That's the only way that I could ever describe it to someone. And even when you're resting, it can just feel like someone has kicked you in the ghoulies and that you're just sore and bruised. So you don't really get any respite from it. However, I've been doing some exercises, one of which is swimming. So it doesn't always work for everybody. It depends how far your legs can open. Now I've got better mobility, it's a lot better for me, but at the beginning I did struggle. And also the water can support your bump and means it's not so heavy and there's not so much pressure on the pelvis. Just be careful when you're coming out, because obviously then it's a bit of a shock to the system when all of a sudden your bump weight is back, and also then going up and down stairs, because that was also a really bad point for me. But swimming is something to try. The final bit of exercise, which has been phenomenal and I cannot stress it enough, and that was pregnancy yoga. So I might have been lucky with the tutor that I had and the fact that she's very highly qualified in women's health and understanding women's anatomy, but Debbie at BabyFit, which is a local company in Norwich, who I was doing my pregnancy yoga with, as soon as I mentioned I had SPD, she adapted some of the moves for me, and it's actually being able to still have some mobility meant that each week I was actually being able to move more. The temptation is, when you've got SPD, is not to move, is not to do anything, because it causes so much pain, and I get it. I really, really get it. However, if you don't move, those muscles will then become lazy, and what you'll do is actually make your problem worse, because the lazier your muscles get, the tighter they then get, the more pain that then causes when you do then move, so then you move less, and it's all such a vicious cycle. Whereas if the more you can move, and in a safe way, the better it will be for you. So things like yoga have been fantastic. So whether that has just been the breathing techniques, when sometimes the pain has just got a little bit too much when I'm at work or I'm walking about and I have to just stop and try and think of my golden thread breathing. If you do yoga, you'll understand what I mean. Just to try and take the edge off it just a little bit. Or whether it's different positions that I can do, and some positions that I can then do when I'm at home to try and stretch those muscles, but again in a safer way. Or whether it's just talking to someone who is knowledgeable about your anatomy to then give you more tips on how you can move, what you can be eating, how you can be sitting, and just little hints and advice that they can then pass on to you to just make your everyday life just that little bit easier. I've actually been suffering with SPD from about 16 weeks, which is really, really early. Normally it happens late in pregnancy, and I'm now at 35 weeks, and I officially got discharged from my physio yesterday. So I'm over the moon at that. All I've got to keep on doing now is moving as much as I possibly can. During that time, I also went to New York, which I was really worried about because of all the walking I'd heard you do. But I did actually find the more walking I did, the better it was. So like I said, the most activity you can do, the better. I really hope those 3 tips help you. I really struggled to find any kind of positive light at the end of the tunnel online. For God's sake, don't Google it. There's so many forums who will give you horrific stories about it. Just ignore them. But hopefully they help for you. And if you've got any other tips, then by all means share them below. But if you like this video, click like and subscribe.